Most men misunderstand power because they imagine it as something loud. They expect dominance to announce itself with confidence, authority, or charisma. They think power walks into a room and demands attention. But real power rarely introduces itself. It waits. It observes. It lets others expose themselves first. If you have ever felt overlooked while less competent people rise effortlessly, you have already encountered this truth without having the language for it. Power does not reward effort, it rewards positioning. That sentence alone explains why entire careers stall while others accelerate. The world is not a meritocracy disguised as chaos. It is a hierarchy disguised as fairness. And the men who rise are not always the most talented, the most ethical, or the most intelligent. They are the ones who understand the emotional economy governing every interaction between unequals. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago, not because he was cynical, but because he paid attention. He noticed that people do not respond to truth, they respond to usefulness. They do not protect what is good, they protect what sustains their sense of control. Once you internalize this, networking stops feeling humiliating and starts feeling strategic. The first illusion you must destroy is the belief that proximity equals connection. Being near powerful people does nothing for you unless you alter their internal calculus. Most men attend events, meetings, or social gatherings believing visibility alone will save them. They speak when spoken to, they nod, they agree, they leave with business cards and false hope. What they fail to realize is that powerful people do not remember faces, they remember sensations. They remember problems solved, tensions relieved, threats neutralized. If your presence does not change the emotional temperature of the room, you were never really there. One of the least discussed facts about power is that it creates paranoia. The higher someone climbs, the more they suspect betrayal, incompetence, and hidden motives beneath every smile. This is why transparency backfires. When you openly declare your ambitions, you force powerful people to calculate whether your future success threatens their current position. Even benevolent leaders prefer allies whose trajectory feels contained. Uncertainty feels safer than clarity when stakes are high. This is why subtlety outperforms sincerity. You do not connect upward by demanding recognition. You connect upward by becoming difficult to replace without appearing ambitious enough to fear. That balance is not taught because it cannot be taught morally. It can only be understood psychologically. Another uncomfortable truth is that powerful people are rarely decisive in the way outsiders imagine. They delay, they hedge, they seek confirmation disguised as consultation. When they ask for your opinion, they are not searching for insight, they are searching for emotional reinforcement. If you contradict them directly, you introduce friction. If you merely agree, you remain forgettable. The optimal move exists between those extremes. You frame your insight as refinement rather than opposition. You reshape their idea without threatening authorship. This allows them to experience intelligence without surrendering status. Power protects ego before it protects truth. There is also a reason silence unsettles influential people more than incompetence. Incompetence is predictable. Silence forces projection. When you do not rush to fill space, others assign meaning to your restraint. They assume depth, confidence, or hidden leverage. This is why the man who speaks least in important rooms is often the one quietly steering outcomes. Urgency signals dependence. Patience signals autonomy. Another fact rarely acknowledged is that loyalty does not begin with trust, it begins with shared risk. People bond not when they agree, but when they feel exposed together. This is why confidential information is more powerful than flattery. When you are entrusted with something sensitive, your value increases instantly because you now hold potential damage in your hands. The secret does not need to be explosive, it only needs to be real. However, the mistake most men make at this stage is revealing that they understand this. They overshare, they reciprocate prematurely, they attempt to build intimacy instead of asymmetry. Once information flows freely in both directions, leverage evaporates. Power is not sustained by hoarding knowledge, but by controlling timing and access. Another deeply misunderstood principle is that reliability alone does not create importance. Machines are reliable. Power requires discretion. If you complete tasks efficiently but without judgment, you become infrastructure. Infrastructure is maintained, not protected. Protection is reserved for individuals whose absence would destabilize systems emotionally, not just operationally. To achieve that, you must learn how to regulate the emotions of those above you. This is not empathy in the sentimental sense, it is emotional engineering. When pressure rises, you lower it. When uncertainty spreads, you narrow options. When conflict escalates, you absorb blame without internalizing guilt. This positions you as ballast in turbulent environments. Men who rise fastest are rarely the most aggressive, they are the most stabilizing. Another fact Machiavelli would appreciate is that power resents dependency but rewards controlled reliance. If someone feels you cannot survive without them, they will keep you close but small. If they feel you could survive without them, they treat you with respect. The paradox is that your usefulness must be undeniable, but your neediness must be invisible. This is why having an independent identity matters more than claiming confidence. Power detects need before words betray it. When your life feels full, your negotiations become slower, your tone steadier, and your posture unhurried. These cues signal optionality. Optionality is leverage in human form. There is also a hidden danger in being too morally expressive around powerful people. Public virtue creates private suspicion. When someone advertises their ethics, others instinctively wonder what weakness those ethics are compensating for. Power prefers quiet principles enforced through behavior, not declarations announced through speech. One of the most overlooked strategies is learning when not to align. Agreement feels safe, but strategic dissent establishes credibility. The key is timing. You never oppose publicly, you question privately. You frame resistance as concern rather than challenge. This positions you as someone who sees risks others ignore, without triggering defensiveness. Another uncomfortable reality is that power does not respect sacrifice, it exploits it. When you consistently put yourself last, you signal infinite elasticity. Elastic objects are stretched until they snap. Boundaries, not generosity, define value. The man who occasionally refuses earns more respect than the man who always complies. Refusal is not rebellion, it is calibration. Perhaps the most dangerous myth is that influence requires constant presence. In reality, controlled absence sharpens importance. When you are not always reachable, your availability gains weight. When you return, interactions feel intentional rather than habitual. Habit dulls perception, intent restores it. Machiavelli would tell you that visibility must be rationed like currency. Spend it too freely and it inflates. Spend it deliberately and it appreciates. The final truth most men resist is this: power is less interested in who you are than in who you allow others to become around you. If people feel more capable, calmer, and more decisive after interacting with you, they will seek your proximity instinctively. This is not charisma, it is psychological value creation. When you stop chasing recognition and start engineering relevance, dynamics reverse quietly. Invitations arrive without requests. Opinions are solicited without self-promotion. Influence accumulates without announcement. And at that point, you understand the real lesson Machiavelli never stated outright. Power is not taken, it is granted under the illusion that it was always yours. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. You stop performing sincerity and start practicing precision. You stop hoping to be chosen and start structuring situations where your absence becomes inconvenient. That's the difference between pieces and players. And once you learn to play, the board never looks the same again.